Days to catch your breath good right now for this time of year?
It just depends. I think, what you feel is the right thing sometimes is, and then sometimes it isn't. Like when you've done it long enough to where you need some time off. It's at the end of the year. I think everybody would say yes, at this time of the year, but it's the same for everybody, especially the people that have gotten the double bye like us. I think the double bye is very beneficial to try to help, win the tournament. I don't know if it's beneficial in the first game you play. I think the first game that you play, if you can get through that, it's beneficial. But I think the team that you're playing has already played in a game in that setting. And I think they have a little bit of an advantage, especially in that first half.
Just Big Ten recognition for 5 of your guys. And
right.
Just how do you process that?
Yeah.
And sum up that?
No, it's good. I think anytime you have success, obviously we fell short of our goal of winning the league. But anytime you're right there, which we were at the end, you're going to get recognition from individual players. So, happy for all those guys. And, being all conference. And obviously Travion was 6th man of the year, along with being all conference. Jaden was first team, Zach second team, Eric Hunter on the all defensive team. So I didn't miss anybody, did I?
Sasha was honorable mention.
Sasha was honorable mention. And so, all those guys, had good years. But you're trying to, win the Big Ten. You're trying to win the Big Ten tournament now. And so, that's the focus. But anytime your team has success, you're going to have individual honors. So happy for those guys.
Can you just kind of speak to the steps that Zach and Jaden both took in their second years?
Yeah. Well, I think if you look at, some of the guys, some of the players that we've had here that have been able to make that jump from their freshman to sophomore year, Caleb Swanigan, Carson Edwards, both became All-Americans. In their second year, Jaden, obviously will be an All-American this year. As a sophomore, I think it's a normal jump for players that get an opportunity as a freshman to play, which Jaden and Zach did. They make a big jump into their sophomore year. Not always, but I think you see that more than anything with any other year. I think you saw it with Johnny Davis. I think you saw it with Keegan Murray. They also have better opportunities too. I think anytime you get into that second year, you have more experience. You understand things more, but you have more of an opportunity, and that definitely helps. But both of those guys had experiences in the U19s, and I think that definitely helped them, help their confidence.
Because for Travion he goes from starter to coming off the bench a lot, but it's somewhat satisfying that he gets the 6th man of the year to show the adjustment that he made to coming off the bench.
Well, I think the 6th man of the year also has never been voted all conference. At least I don't recall that. I always thought that guy that came off the bench, just fighting for that award, and that was it. So I think it just shows you for his value to our team, that he's one of the top, really top 10, 15 players in our league, coming off the bench.
Kind of back to Zach and Jaden, it's been kind of a process for them this season too. It seems like Zach with his physicality and toughness to start games, and Jaden with his decision making.
Right.
Do you see those guys being markedly better players now? I know some things have come and gone on both those fronts, but do you see them being better players now than they were when you opened practice?
Sure. I think with Zach I think it's frustrating for him because he doesn't quite understand why he can't foul like people foul him. Mm-hmm. And he has a very valid point. A lot of times that guys that complain about things, you go back and watch film and they're just not right. And you got to show them the film and say, hey, you're saying this is what's going on, but in reality, you got to fix your issues. But he's right. He's right more times than not. I try to stop his frustration when he gets called for fouls, because what he normally gets called for are fouls. What his complaint are the things that don't get called. So it was tough for him this year, but I think he did a much better job of dealing with that. I don't think the referees made much strides in that area. We just watched the game from other night. They foul him a lot and they don't get it called. I don't understand what the understanding is when someone's got a knee up your backside or someone puts 2 hands in your back. You're getting punished because you're the one who's 7'4", 300 pounds, and that's all it is. And the guy doing it is a really good player, and I guess they want to keep him in the game. But I don't have any other guess besides that, because there are obvious things that are getting missed. He gets hook and holds, in the Michigan State game twice. And so it blows my mind that, for him to not be able to get recognition. Sometimes when guys are that big, they're not very good. So they don't get calls. And you're like, well, hey, he's the backup. He plays 4 minutes a game. You're not very good. Like, take it. It's part of it. You don't get calls when you come off the bench and you play 5 minutes. But he's a guy that's really good. He's an all-conference player. I think he'll play in the NBA someday. And so I think that's been frustrating for him, and he's done a much better job. I think he does a much better job dealing with it than we do as coaches. Because, players come and go, and if you can keep your job, through the years, you got 17 years of watching the same things, and referees normally make adjustments on things they're missing. And it just didn't happen this year for him for whatever reason. With Jaden, like his decision making, things change in how people defend him, and he's always in that adjustment mode of making that decision, and sometimes he has predetermined thoughts, and that's how he gets in trouble. And when he doesn't have predetermined thoughts and he just takes what the defense gives him, he's proven that he's a good decision maker. When he has predetermined thoughts and he's just going to drive and shoot no matter what, that's where he gets into trouble. And that's where he got into trouble in the last game. Like, the ball had to get out of his hands because they were having 3-4 people on the ball when he drove. So he has shown that he can make that adjustment and, get us quality looks and then really put the defense in a bind. And so, that's where he's just got to keep growing in that area of just keeping things simple.
Has he been better at adjusting on the fly, though, without being told what to do?
No. And I think that's what you saw last game. Like, we really worked towards how Indiana overdoes their help, and he, was just going to try to go through everybody. And so that's what he's got to do a better job of. Indy knows it's coming. That's what I always say. The weatherman says it's going to snow. Don't go out there in a tank top. Bring your winter coat. And so everyone's different in how they cover ball screen things, or different in how they cover things in transition. So what's coming. They're rarely ever going to surprise you after 30 games. And you can change, you can do things, but normally what you change to that you haven't practiced, you're not going to be very good at. You're going to be good at what you've been working on all year, what the film shows you, And so for him, he's got to have a little bit more of an open mind. And with that being said, he's had times this year when that's happened, we've worked on it, and he's done just fine. Then he's had times where he hasn't. So that's where he's really got to, sharpen the pencil and just keep things simple. And the same holds true for Travion. When Travion keeps things simple and goes right at people, they're at his mercy. When he tries to overdo things, that's where we get into trouble. So I think that's really going to be a big push for us here the last, couple of weeks, leading up here. Last week, I should say, going into the Big Ten tournament. It's just like, keep things simple, take what the defense gives you, and let's have a lot of fun with it.
Were there a few extra challenges for Jaden this year, as young as he is, being what he is, in terms of, there was a while there he was one of the biggest stars in college basketball. Everybody's talking about what comes next for him, things like that. He's the guy that people are game planning for, and just that seems like a challenging situation.
Yeah, I think anytime you can have that kind of attention, it gets a little bit intoxicating, with people coming at you. All the attention, the mock drafts, things of that nature, instead of just being a 19, 20-year-old sophomore in college and having fun playing college basketball, and then kind of worry about those things or deal with those things afterwards. I don't know if worry is the right word, but when you're constantly living on your phone and everything with social media, like all of us do, it's right in front of you. It's no big deal to you and I, but when it's someone who's that young, who gets that kind of attention, trying to keep, that focus is, I think, sometimes hard. Success messes with you more than failure. Failure normally gets you right.
Are you defending at a level now that you want going into the postseason?
No.
Are you defending at a level you'd accept going into the postseason?
We're defending at a level definitely better than we were 3 weeks ago. And so that's good, but I don't think as a coach it ever arrives. I thought our on-ball defense had to be better the other night. It was hard for the commands, for those guys to hear the commands. It was so loud the other night. And we were late on some things. But we also were going to live with some runners and some floaters. We just didn't want the big to get behind us for his lobs, in which it happened a couple times. So we have to do a better job with that. So we just got to piece things together and just keep working on things, keep improving.
Why has it gotten better the last month?
I think just keeping the ball out of the paint more than anything, and even when we've allowed it in the paint, it's schematically we're trying to get them into tough twos more than anything. Outside of the Michigan State game, we haven't turned it over in those last 2 out of 3 games, and so the more we can go without turning the ball over and setting our defense, we're going to help ourselves. When we get into transition, we've struggled in transition defense. It's important for us to try to get our defense set.
Is Eric kind of